Today I have for you 21 ideas to try in your watercolour sketchbook right now. If, like me, sometimes you sit down to sketch your paint and you just actually don't know what to do or where to start or what to paint, and then you can actually spend loads of time just actually deciding what you want to do, and it kind of wastes sometimes valuable, precious, creative time. And yeah, it's just kind of gets you out of the creative zone really when you waste time sort of wondering what you should actually be doing. So I've created this list, which I think probably will keep you occupied for a good 12 months or so, but do with it as you will. Pick out the ones you like to do and build upon it, maybe go in a different direction, do some series. The world is your oyster with this. So I am not going to labour the points too much. Let us get going. So the first thing I tend to do, especially when I get a new set of watercolours, which isn't all that often, I'll be honest, but sometimes when I get a new sketchbook, actually, just to test the paper, I like to swatch out my colours and just to see what colours I do have. So a couple of months ago, I arrived back in the UK. I haven't been with most of my art supplies for over 12 months, and I was reunited with this set of paints I have. So these are a mixture of Winsor & Newton professional colours, also Daniel Smith, and also a few Jacksons as well, Jackson's Art own brand. And yeah, I just really didn't know what kind of colours were in this set anymore because it had just been such a long time. And as you can see, they're actually really beautifully vibrant. So I need to start using this set a bit more. I'm still sort of in the zone of using my White Nights St. Petersburg set that I use pretty much for everything, or have done in the last year. But yeah, I forget that these paints really do have an amazing selection of colours and they're very nice and bright. So this is just always a great way to start off a sketchbook as well. If you get that fear of the blank page, it's always nice just to fill it with something. So here I'm trying to remember which paints are which, really. I'm trying to figure out which ones were the Winsor & Newton ones, which were the Daniel Smith. Luckily, they're kind of in a way that I can figure this out quite easily. This was a nice exercise to get reacquainted with this set and figure out what's what and just make some notes. My next point is making a watercolour mixing chart. This is such a useful exercise to do to really get to know your paints, to get to know how to mix watercolours together, to learn what colours you can achieve from a smaller amount of colours. So this watercolour chart, oh my god, it took me so long. It took me like 4 hours. I don't know if it was because I was filming as well, but oh, it was a real pain, I'm not gonna lie, but it was actually probably one of the best things I've ever done in terms of watercolour exercises or whatever. So you can see just from my set of 14 colours, these are the St. Petersburg White Nights colours, look at all of these colours you can make with just mixing two of them together. It's just quite incredible to actually see it physically in front of you. So I have a video on how to do this. It's not the best because it's one of my early ones, but do go check it out just to get the gist of how to do that. The next one is just sketching stuff around the house. If you guys follow me or know my work at all, you know I'm a big fan of sketching things around the house, especially during lockdown. And I actually have a 7-day urban sketching at home challenge that you can join in. So the link is in the description below. Just sign up with your email address, and every day for 7 days you'll get a prompt along with a video of me doing the challenge as well. Just to get you inspired really, and it's a really nice way to practice your urban sketching skills and to get a bit more confidence, practice, you know, sketching from life, and also just to see the small things around the house that can tell quite a nice story. You know, you might want to do a collection of your houseplants like on this spread, and it also helps you practice other things like creating a whole collection of items and how that might look. It's just really great for all kinds of skills, so don't overlook sketching around the house. You can find interesting things whichever way you look. So yeah, this challenge is just to get you along your way and give you some prompts on what to do. My next idea is to just go out urban sketching locally. So maybe once you've got used to doing stuff around the house, maybe you want to get out, go to your local park like I did. And actually there was quite a nice amount of history around this area in Johannesburg where I live that I wasn't aware of, and yeah, it was quite interesting to find out about the local area as well as sketch a few random bits and bobs. So I want to be doing one of these soon for my village in England as well, because there's a few interesting bits and bobs around here too. So look out for that video soon. But yeah, if you haven't checked out this one, it's my little mini documentary on Lone Hill, Johannesburg. So you can go check that out. So I've got here exotic animals. I mean, you don't have to do exotic animals. You can sketch your dog or your cat or your gerbil if you want. But I think it's quite fun to sketch animals that are not your everyday, probably. Things like chameleons. I think chameleon would be quite fun, or parrot, or something like that. But anyway, I did a series of animals from Africa. They're animals that I saw on a game drive, so I couldn't sketch them from life like this, but I did sketch them from photos I found on Pinterest. I think it all stemmed from seeing a giraffe with a bird on its head, and I was like, in real life at the game drive, and I was like, that's really cool, I'd love to sketch that. And then I went searching for a picture of it on Pinterest, and then I found that there were pictures of rhinos with birds on their heads and buffaloes with birds on their heads, and it kind of grew organically from that. So yeah, but if you are interested in drawing these same animals, for example, then I do have a sketching reference board on Pinterest that features a lot of the photos that I sketch from actually, so you can just head over there and use them too if you want. This is one idea, do a series of animals. So my next idea is going to probably scare most of you, but it's portraits. And how I got onto this was I actually did this Domestika course called Watercolour Portrait Sketchbook. Sketching portraits is something I do fear, but this course is actually really, really good. I do highly recommend it. It's one of my favourite ones I've taken on Domestika, and I've taken quite a few now. But this one really did help me learn how to get a face in proportion, so I do recommend it. And it really inspired me actually to, want to just draw faces in every page of my sketchbook, which I haven't actually got around to doing yet, but it's definitely something I really want to do soon, is just get out and start painting portraits of unsuspecting victims in cafes and stuff like that. It has been COVID in my defence though, so it's not really been a good time to loiter in public places and be weird, but that's fine. I did have a go at my self-portrait though, which is basically my first watercolour portrait, and I actually think it's not too bad. And then I did this one of Mr. Dave Navarro because we were watching loads of Ink Master, so I thought I'd have a go. That one came out alright as well. So yeah, have a go at that if you feel like it. The next one is sketching only using selective amounts of watercolour. So doing a pen and ink sketch and then just painting certain parts of it in watercolour. If you haven't seen my interview with John Harrison, who's like a bit of a master at this kind of style, then do go check that out. He literally gave just so many amazing tips in this interview. And then also recently I did a little video of ink drawing old doorways and then adding really bright pops of colour in the background, so it's kind of along the same kind of lines, so you could have a go at that as well. Another idea is to sketch some famous landmarks. So I went through a phase of doing some London landmarks, some of the obvious ones, Tower Bridge and St Paul's Cathedral and Big Ben and Westminster Abbey and all that, but it was cool. It kind of galvanised a certain style that I seemed to have at that moment. I think I've lost it again, but at that moment in time I was kind of getting this bit of an Ian Fannelly vibe going on, and like, yeah, I was quite enjoying it. So it was quite a fun series to do. I think I did 5 in the end. So yeah, I encourage you to pick some landmarks, maybe from a country you haven't been to but you'd like to go to or something like that, and just do a series of them. The next idea is using a limited palette. So there's a few videos around on YouTube on this. I've got one myself, but it's not very good, so I'm not going to recommend you guys watch that. Hopefully I'll do another one in the future. But yeah, there's one here from Cafe Watercolour. There's another one from Steve from Mind of Watercolour. And also Tiao does loads of limited palette sketches. So it's something I want to try a bit more actually when I get around to it. But I think it's a really good way of getting a cohesive sketch. You're only using 3 colours. It also pushes you to mix the colours you need from the 3 colours, so it's a good exercise for learning how to mix your colours together. Next up we have people sketching, so not portraits but actual people sketching, like the whole figures in motion. And this video from Trevor Wow actually really helped me start sketching sort of watercolour silhouettes. It's a really good video. I do recommend you watch this video, which is part 2, weirdly, first, and then maybe the other one, because this one really goes through actually just focusing on the figures rather than adding them into a painting. So I recommend watching this part 2 because that taught me a lot. Also, Yong Chen as well has a nice video on people sketching in watercolour. And the other one I really like Alvin Mark's YouTube channel. He sketches a lot of people and I really love his style. And there's also an annual challenge called 1 Week 100 People that you can join, that's started by Mark Taro Holmes and Liz Steele. And I think it was in March this year, so I guess it might be in March again in 2022, but that's always really fun to join in on if you kind of want to do it together with a whole bunch of other sketchers. And then recently, if you're on my Patreon, you'll know that I got this book because I sort of did a nice flip through and gave my thoughts on it. But this is by Roisin Cure, and it's part of the Urban Sketching Handbook series, and she does a fantastic job of showing her people sketches and other people's people sketches, as well as giving a whole bunch of tips. So that's a nice little book on people sketching there. I'll put the link in the description below. Now, as you're probably aware, I am British, so I do love a good pub, and I think sketching pubs is probably one of my favourite subjects. So this is a gorgeous pub in Covent Garden, London, called the Cross Keys. I'm just doing it from a photo here that I found on Pinterest. So, you know, if you don't live in England or anywhere else that's near some kind of pub, then you can just use the photos you find on Pinterest. You know, they're just fun to practice with, fun to draw. Highly recommend that. And there's loads of gorgeous photos on Pinterest of pubs. So you can also check out my book, because I have a whole page of pubs in my book, Sketchy Adventures Around the World. So yeah, check that out if you want. Okay, yeah, draw this in your style. I love these challenges on Instagram, mainly by @breadjans. I'm not sure if he's doing them so much anymore, but you can sort of scroll back in his profile and look for the photographs he's posted to draw this in your style. This was an old truck, a kind of abandoned truck that had like plants growing out of the engine and all sorts. But yeah, I had a lot of fun during lockdown doing these kinds of draw this in your style, so do check that out on Instagram. I've got the link in the description below if you want, but there's a whole bunch of them, so just check that out. Another thing you guys probably know I'm a fan of is actually sketching the same thing twice or even 3 times, and just playing with different ways of doing things. So obviously this takes a bit of patience, and that's why I've chosen something relatively simple like this house that doesn't have too much to it, because drawing this like 2, 3, 4, 5 times if you want to can get a bit much. But I think 3 was about my limit with this, and I just really wanted to try out lots of different approaches to drawing the same thing. I think it's a really good exercise. It's a really fun way to actually stumble upon new processes, new ways of doing things. And yeah, it's just a really good sketchbook exercise to do. So there's this video. I've got a few more in the Showdown series, so where I paint the same scene or same thing twice. So you can scroll back in the videos and check them out. I have actually put a playlist together of all the videos that I've mentioned in this video, so not only mine but ones from everyone else as well. I made a whole playlist of those, so you can just hit that in the link in the video description below and you can watch all of those videos. Something that scares you. You could take this quite literally and draw a spider or something. Well, that's what scares me, but what I actually mean is try and paint or sketch in a way that you just would never do normally and actually terrifies you. So in this instance, this was quite a long time ago now, but I was doing the direct watercolour challenge, another challenge that Mark Taro Holmes started. So you do one painting directly in watercolour every day for 30 days for a month. And yeah, the thought of that was terrifying. I think I lasted about 12 days, so didn't do too bad. So yeah, I think this was from like day 2 or day 3, and it's not the best thing I've ever done in my life, but it was quite good fun to push my boundaries, so you could definitely try that out too. Another thing that's really useful to practice in your watercolour sketchbook is natural elements. So things like skies, different ways of painting skies. There's a great video by Karen Rice on that. How to paint water and surf and just ocean scenes in general. Mr. Paul Clark has a good video on that, as well as Kellogg's Loops. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. It's got a few million views on it though, so I'm sure you might have. He's got a nice abstract way of painting water and waves there, which is quite nice to watch. I can also really recommend this Craftsy class by Shari Blaukopf, where she shows you how to draw really, hard things to draw, like rocks and hillsides and, again, coastal scenes in her kind of ink and watercolour style, which I am a really big fan of. So that is definitely one to check out. Again, the link is in the description below. So another thing to do in your watercolour sketchbook is you could play with sketchbook spread design, so doing different layouts and things like that. So I have a whole blog post on this. It goes into quite a lot of detail about how to design a sketchbook spread and the different elements to consider, with lots of different examples from various different urban sketches. As you can see on the screen here, I'm just kind of scrolling through it. So there's so much inspiration in this blog post. It's one of my posts that I'm most proud of. So do head over to urbansketchingworld.com to find that. You can just type in the search design a sketchbook spread or something like that. But I've actually got the entire link, or the exact link, in the description below. So you could actually just use that, basically. So yeah, do check it out. I think designing sketchbook spreads is really, really fun, especially if you've got a series of items or lots of different angles of the same thing. And it's also a really cool way to tell a story. So it's, yeah, a great thing to do for urban sketching and such things like that. Another idea here is only using one colour, so doing like more of a tonal painting. So again, Karen Rice has got a great video on this. I'm a big fan of her channel. By the way, these screenshots that say it look like I haven't subscribed to anyone, that's not true. I'm subscribed to all these channels I'm showing you. I think I just was accidentally using Safari that I'm not logged into or something like that. So it looks like I don't subscribe to anyone, but that's not true. It's just I just screenshotted it from a weird browser window. So I had a go at this kind of thing myself, not as a direct result of Karen's video, but just I saw this amazing photograph and I thought, oh, that would be really cool to try and do that all in one colour. So I just did this with indigo and just focused on, yeah, getting the lights, mids and darks. It's a really good exercise. Another thing that you probably all know I'm a big fan of is actually painting first and then sketching on top. So I have this video, which I'll link below. Yeah, it's just really good fun. So obviously splash on some watercolour, wet and wet, let it dry, and then go for it and sketch on top. And then you can kind of just build up the layers. So, I've done a line drawing on top, but then I've got some Faber-Castell Pit Artist pens and I'm adding some grey shading, and then I might go back in with a bit more paint and build up the layers, and now I've got a white Posca marker. So this kind of feeds in nicely to my next point, but you can just go for it and use kind of all different mediums together to really build this kind of thing up. And actually all you started with was just a bit of splash of colour, so it's really fun. So again, as I said, you can mix all different mediums with watercolour. In this particular example, James Gurney is sketching a tortoise and with watercolour and pulling out the details with coloured pencil. Really love this video, so do go check that one out if you get a chance. I came across this idea looking at my paint palette, and I can see that there's some colours that I've used, basically they're empty, like this Indian yellow here, and Indian gold's on its way. Also Payne's grey is obviously a colour I use a lot of, the sepia, the green and the indigo as well. And then I'm looking at like the colours I basically don't ever use, like this purple, English red and the other red there that I can't remember the name of, and the two blues. It seems like I don't ever really use those very much. So it's very interesting that I do seem to use the same 5 or 6 colours from this set of 14. So then I was thinking, oh, well, it'd be cool to do a sketch where you're just using the colours that you never use. And then actually I found this video by Arlie Bean where she's kind of doing the same thing. That's why I've screenshotted this for you here, because I thought you might find that interesting to go and watch as well. Another idea is to just use one brush, as terrifying as this sounds, and you definitely don't need to use a brush as big as Tim Wilmot is using here. That is a beast. But it is a really good way to challenge yourself to just use one brush. And imagine how minimalist your urban sketching kit could be if you were just using one brush. So the other thing with using one brush, especially a large brush, is that it totally forces you to loosen up. You can't get too fiddly with the details, can't sort of agonize over things. So it's a really good way to push yourself to like do a loose painting, is just use one brush and make it a big one. So I do encourage you to try that as well. So that is 21 ideas, guys, for your sketchbooks, of which you can branch off and do lots of different variations of as well. So I hope you really enjoyed checking that out. I hope it's given you loads of inspiration. Do check out my book, Sketchy Adventures Around the World, if you get a chance. The link is in the video description below. And also I have a course as well, Sketchy Adventures in Ink and Watercolour. That link is in the video description below. And of course, do go and check out all of my blog posts over on urbansketchingworld.com. And I will see you in the next video.